my pen's divine. Kundalini running up my spine. I climbed out the grit and grime. It's my time, I was meant to shine. Mic check. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. Yo. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna get into a series about dreams. I've ever since a little kid, I've just had the wildest, craziest kind of dreams. Lucid dreams, all type of, bizarre kind of experiences, and it's always really intrigued me. So I figured, why not talk about it? So I'm gonna get into this one dream that I had a few years ago. I'm gonna try to remember it the best I can. But okay, I just like in the dream, you know how in dreams you just kind of appear in a situation, you don't really know how you got there, but you're just in the certain situation. Well, I had in the dream, I had like a family, where I remember it was like, well, I'm assuming it was my family. That's what it seemed like. Like I had a dream where I was in a car, and there was a woman, a blonde woman, and then there was a little girl. And in the dream, at first it seemed like, oh, everything was going good, and I was like, oh, I got a nice little family here. Oh, this is nice. And then all of a sudden things turn really crazy. Like the woman start just yelling at me really intensely, like I did something just terrible, and I'm in the middle of a situation, like not knowing like what I did or whatever. And then and I'm trying to figure out like, whoa, like what are you even going off on me about? Like I didn't understand what was happening. It was just like I was thrown into the situation. And then the police were, I seen the police, and they were telling me to get out of the car. So, and it was really intense situation. And so, and I remember I was like, I remember telling like the woman that was just going off at me, like, I didn't do nothing. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and then anyway, the police told me to get out the car. I got out the car, and they took me to the police station. And when they took me into the police station, they had like guns. Like one of the police officer had a gun like pointed in the pressing against the temple, against my temple, and pretty hard. And he was like, he's like, I could kill you, motherfucker, right now. Nobody would care. Da da da. And there was a bunch of other police officers around, watching, and I was kind of just like, it got to the point where I was just like, fuck it, kill me then, because it was just like, I didn't know what I did. I didn't know what was going on. It was overwhelming. And I just was at the point in that situation where I was just like, fuck it then. Kill me. Because this situation is horrible. And anyway, and so the next thing I know, it was like my consciousness just, I thought he shot me, because I thought he killed me, because all of a sudden I appeared on my back, um, looking up at something in kind of like darkness. Like I was laying on my back looking up at something, and I was kind of like, oh, I'm dead now. I thought I was, and it was dead. I thought I was dead. And they, somebody pulled me, like, what I realized, I was underneath a car on one of them. You ever see, like them things mechanics lay on with that have wheels when they're working underneath a car. And so one of the guys pulled me from underneath the car, and I was, and that's when I realized, oh, I'm not dead. Because at first I thought I was dead. I was just like, oh fuck, I'm dead, whatever. And then they were looking down. There was a bunch of guys, um, mechanics. I realized they were mechanics, and they were looking at me and they were laughing at me, like this motherfucker's like. And I was trying to explain to them like what happened. I was like, the police, da da da. They shot me. I did da. And they were just looking at me like this lunatic. What the fuck is, like, and they was like, you probably just passed out underneath the car. Like, you're all right. Like, kind of calm down type thing. And they was just clowning me, like this motherfucker's like tripping. And they didn't, like, they just thought I had passed out and I dreamed, or I was dreaming or something. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I was this happened. I was with this family, and and now I don't know. Now I'm here, and I don't know who I am. I don't know what's going on, kind of thing. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, this, I don't know. Like, whatever, kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, it was like my consciousness left my body again and went to another body. I was in another situation where I was in line with a ticket, about to get aboard a plane. And all this was so intense because all the situations were super intense. And so I was just like kind of discombobulated because I went from one really intense situation with the police to a mechanic underneath the car to this situation where I'm about to board a plane. And I'm thinking like, and the lady's like, and I'm like, wait, and she's she's trying to take my ticket or something. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, I'm thinking like, I don't even know who the fuck I am. I'm not in no shape to be getting on a fucking plane. Like, what am I doing here? And then and I was like, I'm thinking like, there's no way I'm like, whatever. Like, and so then she said, well, you're Coleman, right? And I was kind of like, wait, Coleman, like, that rings a bell. It was the first thing that kind of like, that I heard that kind of like made any sense of like I know that name. Yeah. Like, that sounds familiar. And it's so crazy because it's like kind of like, and so I was just like, okay, I guess I am supposed to be on this plane. It was the first, it was the first moment where like that grounded me a bit. Like, okay, I have an identity now. I'm Coleman. That sounds familiar. That's something I know. All the other like situations were like, so like, what am I doing? Who am I? And so that kind of relaxed me a little bit. And I said, okay, I guess I am supposed to be on this plane. And then there was like a name by the seat, because I'm like, well, where am I supposed to sit, whatever. um, and it said Jaden. And then it was like, okay, like that. I was like, my son, Jaden. Okay, I'm. This makes sense. I'm supposed to be on this plane now. And so I sat down in the seat because it was like, those were the things that kind of like grounded me, where I was like, because I felt like it was almost like I was egoless, like I didn't have any. I didn't know who I was, why it was just such a strange situation. And then, um, and then I, it said, then I was on the plane and I got to the destination and it said, you're here. And it was like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the crazy thing is, I had no idea at that moment, like, that I was actually, it sounded familiar. Like I was like, oh, Pittsburgh. Yeah, that was another thing. The three things that kind of grounded me that I could hold on to was like my name, which is like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm Coleman. Um, my son's name and the city I'm from. So it's almost like my brain was like, those are the things that, if I remember nothing else, I know those three things. My name, my son's name, and my city. And then when it said, you're here, I woke up. So that was interesting. Because when I woke up, I was kind of like, because it's like, you're here, Pittsburgh, and then I woke up. And then I had to like, when I woke up, I was like, for a minute, like I was so discombobulated. Like I was like, well, where the fuck am I? I was like, okay, I'm back in reality. But it was so, but everything happened so fast. It was like you're in one situation real intense and you're zapped into another and you're another. It was like my consciousness was going from like a different life to a different life to a different life. And it was happening so quick. It was just like so discombobulating, and I didn't have much. I didn't know who I was or why I was where I was, but that was so interesting. So um, that that dream kind of was one thing that kind of made me like start to believe in like reincarnation, and that we're actually consciousness. Our real identity is consciousness. That's not, we in this, and when we're of course in the waking world, we think we're our gender, our race, our, um, um, you know, or like we think our body, but we actually what we are is consciousness. And that consciousness and the body that we are currently is just our current avatar that we're in. But we think that's our complete identity because we don't remember anything other than our current life. But I believe that we are actually just consciousness. We're energy, an energy field of consciousness. And the I am. And that's what we are. And I feel like that's what that dream was showing me. And that I've had previous lives where in one life I'm the bad guy, in another life I am some other life and some other thing like a mechanic. Then another life I was something else. But they're just they're all just experiences. And so that really made me kind of start to believe in that. Okay. And so okay, now I'm going to get into a second dream that was interesting. Okay. In this dream, I appeared in like an auditorium. Like I just appeared in an auditorium in a chair, and it was dark. And I was just like, because I was trying to figure like, where the fuck am I? It was so dark. And as I looked around, I noticed everybody had these like masks on, these heads. And the only thing I can relate them to was like Anubis, the jackal. It was like people had on these horse jackal heads, whatever. And being in that situation was kind of like what the fuck is this, going on here? And so and then I was like, oh, okay. And then I got up because I just was like, trying to figure out where I was or what's going on. And so I started, I got up, I was trying to be quiet because it was like serious. It was like whatever they were doing seemed to be something like spiritual, and they were trying to honor something. It was like, so I was just like trying to be a little quiet, try to get out there, and I seen some lights in the door. So I went out that door, because I was trying to figure out where I was, how I got there. And so I went through the double doors, and it was like I was in some type of school. It was, and when I went out the doors, it was brightly lit, just like a school or something. And I seen some students, there was a bunch of students kind of like walking around, and I asked them like, I seen this dude, and I was like, I don't know where I am, how I got there, like where am I? And I knew kind of when I asked this, like, man, they're gonna think I'm like crazy or whatever. But I was like, where am I? Like, what city is this? What place is this? Whatever. And he looked at me like, damn, this nigga got high last night or drunk. Like that. He didn't even look at me like think like I was crazy. It was almost just like, oh, this nigga's high as fuck. Like, and I kind of just, and he was like, bro, that's your room, bro, right over there, fucking drunk ass motherfucker. That's kind of the look he gave me. So I was like, okay, thank, kind of things. And as I was looking around everywhere, everything was like, it was like, everybody was like human, but it was like I was in a different time. It was almost like I was in a different planet, but a human planet that's similar to Earth. And because there's certain things that was just very similar, but also things that were pretty different. But it was similar enough where it was just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I understood everything. And so I walked into the room that he told me was my room. I seen people on the couch watching a TV where the TV looked different. I was noticing all that. Like, there's certain things that were just like different, but it was still a TV basically thing, or maybe it was a computer or whatever, but he was watching it. And I remember trying to act normal, like don't act too weird, like you don't know that this is your place, this is where you're from, and act like try to be normal. And but I was also still trying to get answers. Like, okay, like I was trying to get some answers, or I was trying to tell people that like I'm not from here. Like I don't know. I need to find my home or my real house. I don't know how I got here. Somebody help me out, kind of thing. And then I like was like I remember looking in the mirror because it was like I don't know who I am, what I'm doing, like whatever. And the funny thing is, like I looked into, and I'm just gonna keep it 100. Like I could lie, but I'm gonna just keep it 100. You know what I mean? Even if it makes me, like I looked into the mirror and I was a chick. I was a chick with black hair. And I remember thinking it was like I was like it was like I was a female, and it was obvious I was a female, but it also I was like, and I was a thin female, but it was also like you could tell it was like masculine. My hair wasn't done well or whatever. It was just kind of like uh just not like I was. It was like I was. It was basically like I was like a lesbian or whatever. I mean, that's how I looked when I looked in the mirror. But I remember looking in the mirror like, oh fuck, are you serious? I'm a bitch. Like universe got me fucked up. Like I remember just being like, man, are you serious? Like fuck, god damn. And then but I was like, okay, whatever. And I just like continued to just, try to find some answers. And I went into the other room, and I remember it was a room, and there was women in there. And I remember they liked me. It was like it was a flirty energy, and they liked me. And then that's when, and of course, and I like looked at them, I liked them, and I was like, that's when I was like, oh, thank God, at least I'm a lesbian. You know what I mean? And so like, but anyway, that's just like egoic shit that was running through my mind. And anyway, I started to try to like explain, like, I'm not from here. I don't know where I am, what fucking planet I'm on, or what. And I try to be like, this is what I think is happening. I think my consciousness is left, and I went into another body here, and I need to figure out how to get home. And they were kind of like, this leader that, or whatever, so-and-so leader told us about that, told us about that, kind of like that's possible or whatever, like that, and stuff like that. And then, and then somewhere along the line, there's more to it, but it's a little X-rated, so I'm gonna leave that part out. But anyway, yeah, but like anyway, and so I was talking to him like that, and then I woke up. Those two dreams were like pretty different than any other dream I had. They were like my consciousness went into different bodies in different places, and they were so, I remember them being so vivid. Like this happened, these dreams both happened years ago, like over at least 4 years ago, and I still remember them. And so that's one thing that made it significant, is that how vivid they were. And I remember seeing everything vivid. And it's also interesting how I can remember them, how I was able to, because not all dreams I can remember, but I remember those, and they were pretty like, it was pretty crazy. Those are the the reincarnation dreams. And so like, or where I was in a different body with a whole different identity. And it's so interesting because it was like everything that happened was so surprising to me. It was just like I was in a movie. Like I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was happening. It was literally like dreams are supposed to be things that your brain creates, and a whole experience, like a virtual experience that you don't even know the plot to, you don't know the characters. But I guess that's what your brain, the science says that's what your brain does now, that your brain actually creates everything, whatever. I don't know the science of it, but that's what it was like. My brain created this virtual experience. Now, is it real? Was it real? Was it not real? I don't know, but I believe, yeah, I believe that we're consciousness just having an experience, you know, and I just decided to just make this video and talk about this stuff. Maybe it helps somebody in some type of way. But I think there's a reason that I remembered it, and so maybe I'm supposed to remember it so I can share it. But yeah, there's just a knowing in it, and it's just a feeling of it all, of how real it was. And there's a certain knowing in me that's like, yeah, like we have souls, and what a soul, like we're souls having a human experience. Like, it's how people think we're humans that have souls. No, we're a soul that's having a human experience, and I believe that consciousness can create experiences, and this is just the current experiences. But what we actually are, I believe, is consciousness, not anything we can see. We're just consciousness, the I am. And I believe we've had lives before this, many lives. We just can't remember it. So that's what I believe. If you don't believe that, completely understand. That's cool. But having that experience, and the experience that I have in shrooms and all the other dreams I've had, that's why I'm going to start making, a dream segment. I'm pretty convinced that is true. All the spiritual teachers have talked about that. But yeah, I think it's facts. So yeah, if anybody lost a loved one, like, and their consciousness can't be destroyed. There's a certain essence to who we are, to a certain energy. Like, no matter what body I was in, I was still me. I had a different physical identity. I had a different experience. But there's a certain essence that makes us us. We all are raised by different, like you can be raised, have a different family. You can be raised in a different country or place, or maybe even planet. But there's a certain essence, energy, of vibration, of frequency of who you are. That, like, even if I was in a different body, if someone put it out and was like to my family and was like, that's Coleman, they'd be like, oh, I see it. Because there's just certain energy of like who I am, and certain things that make me, if that makes sense. Probably not to some of y'all, but it makes sense to me. And so I believe that's true, that we are consciousness and we are infinite. And it was crazy. So yeah, that's it. Take from that what you want. If nothing else, maybe it was an interesting, entertaining story. I just like spur of the moment was just thinking like, I think I'm gonna talk about this. So just, you know, press record and do it. It's how I roll. But yeah, anyway, hope y'all enjoyed that. Hope you guys something from it. Peace out.